try clicking videos. Anything.
When you start streaming using OBS, I'll teach you how to do it. Basically, you're just gonna review and then reset it, and then just repeat the process. It should work. I'll change all this, and you can see live chat here. You can say something here, but that was from like 2 weeks ago, and you can see all this messages per minute, zero watching now and stuff. So it's very, you know, everything's right here. And if you want to view a watch page, you should go here. And if you're viewing on YouTube, if it's from YouTube Gaming, you can actually select which one it goes to. But I'm going to change it to film and animation right now. It's all changes saved. So this, you don't need to reload it to actually check if the stream is offline or online. It just automatically refreshes. So what we're going to do is actually go to apply here, OBS, and then go to OK, and then press start streaming.
Whoa,
so
it was.
Once it starts streaming, just wait a bit. And right here, you can see this warning that I mentioned just now. Basically, what happened was this wasn't renewed, so I'll be back in a second with this. I'm going to press review and then refresh it, get a new code, and then I'll be back. So if that happens, just do that, and it should work. So guys,
testing 1, 2. How come it's only showing this and not me? Well, it looks like I'm live. I am?
Yep.
Well, it looks like I'm live. Okay, guys, we're actually live. It came up? Okay.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay, guys, we're actually live. It came up? Okay. Now I'm going to type in live on Keene. Now I'm going to type in live on Can you open it up and see the chat? Big, huh? Can you open it up and see the chat? Big, huh? Open it up and see the chat. Big, huh? It's echoing back on off of everything we're doing. Echoing back on off of everything we're doing. Hey guys, sorry, I decided to jump over onto YouTube, and it took me a few minutes to figure out how to do this and change all the settings in the program so that I could live stream over there on to YouTube. So I decided to bail out on Twitch and just go over there to YouTube. So I see, if y'all don't mind, I know I saw, who's Katie Dotson, who's all out there?
Donna Presley, Steve French.
If y'all could go over to Facebook and start posting this link to people over there and tell them, hey, we're live over here, see if we can draw some more people over here for tonight's show, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Cameron is over there, and you can hear him, and he's watching the chat. So if a few of you will say, yeah, we'll go over there and post it, that way he'll know.
Joseph Poindexter.
Yeah, Joseph Poindexter. Y'all go over there and put it on to into Facebook. Go to my site or the Shop Talk shows and post it over there. A few other places, if you don't mind, please. I would appreciate it. I don't know what's wrong with Twitch. I mean, I shouldn't posted that map up there of all the outings, and it's like Florida's totally out, and so is like Michigan, New York, Ohio, all those up in that Maine, all them up in there are totally out too.
Donna said Twitch doesn't work for her, so she thought she would turn it off for everyone.
Okay, Miss Donna, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll give it a few more minutes to let them know over there. Let me go over there back onto Facebook. And Paul and Al Forte had
Al Forte is here now, along with Jim Bashir's.
Okay, guys, thank you so very, very much. I'm sorry, it's nothing we did. It's not my fault, and I would have jumped on YouTube a little bit quicker had I realized what was going on, but I couldn't due to the fact that I had to go in and this software is designed, you have to put all that information, type all that information into it to what stream you're going to go on, and it was all set up for Twitch. So I had to go in there and change everything over to YouTube for live streaming. So, but we'll give it just a few more minutes. Like I said, I'm sorry about that. I wished it would have worked, but unfortunately, it did not. I mean, we got over there. They're behaving themselves.
Yes, everyone's behaving. 9 watching now.
Okay.
Jim got his new bandsaw.
Oh, he did. Cool. Cool. Great. I love new tools, man. I love new tools. We're going to talk about, and I got a ton of wealth of information. Well, at least it'll go up on my site, and I can upload it over to YouTube or Twitch after tonight also, because it's recording over onto YouTube. But just kind of like aggravates me a little bit that I couldn't get it to work. That's the first, wouldn't you know it, my second show, that's the first time that I've ever heard of twitching going down. But I started reading, I was like, actually, they have a lot of problems. So
10.
How many? 10?
10 viewing.
10, all right. But yeah, we're going to start, or we're going to talk about, let me go over here real quick back to Facebook, and I promise I won't burden y'all too much longer over here. I think some of y'all put it on to three notifications, so yeah. Oh yeah, Donna. Thank you, Donna. Donna's going to town over there. Donna's pasted in Makers on YouTube, Hangouts forum, Scrollers on YouTube, Shop Talk shows, info page. Wow, Donna, thank you. I appreciate that very, very, very much. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and go for it and just start. And this will be recorded, and I'll probably upload it to Twitch later on down the road. My stupid little refrigerator over here, and the fan's going out on it, and I stuck my finger over there to try to get it to go or whatever, and it nicked my finger, so I got me a band-aid on. Got me a boo-boo. So anyway, tonight we're going to talk about scroll saw blades, and I've lost all my train of thought, and I was so hyper and ready for this that I've got to start rethinking about what I'm going to talk about, where I'm going to go. And I made some examples here tonight to be able to show you, and we could talk about it, and about the different types of scroll saw blades and what they generally are used for. Now, there's Olsen out there. There's Flying Dutchman. I think those are the two big boys that are out there I know of. And then this Pegasus is coming along, and they're supposed to be really, really good also. And I haven't used them anymore since I did the first show, but I plan on using them some more. But they're not bad at all. I just need some more time. Actually, I talked to Steven, who owns Bear Woods, and he was talking about them, and I said, you've got to realize I've been using Flying Dutchman for 15 years, 10 years. I mean, I don't even remember when I first got introduced to them or found them. And so when you use a blade that long, you are so used to how every way, shape, or form it moves and works, it's hard to get adjusted. And the same thing with the Olsens. I've tried Olsens. Now, I can honestly say with Olsens, did not impress me. I'm sorry. I've used them, and they do not in any way, shape, or form impress me. They've got one blade that I kind of like, and that's called a crown tooth blade, which we'll talk about that later on. Other than that, I wasn't impressed with the way they cut. Just wasn't impressed at all. The Pegasus, they're not bad. They are as close to a Flying Dutchman, but I'm going to have to use them for a while to get used to the way they work before I can give a good representation. I will tell you this. If I was a beginner, I would start off on them and try them for a while, because I think that's my problem. So I'm so addicted to Flying Dutchmans that I can't really cut that very good with everything else. So
Dave Hart is here.
Great.
Calls
So
Messy Workshop.
So anyway, this is a representation of your standard tooth blade, and pretty much this is kind of like a bandsaw blade. I've been looking and trying to find, and the blades are so small you can't really see, about somewhat of a kerf on them, and there are a few blades that I found out that do, scroll saw blades that have a kerf on them. So I don't know if back in the day some of them had a kerf or not, but pretty much all the teeth are pointing in one direction. They only cut on the downstroke, and multiple teeth. This is the way your old pinned-in blades used to be. They were manufactured like this, like I said, basically like a bandsaw blade, all pointing in one direction. Like I said, I don't remember or know about the kerf, whether the teeth, and when I say kerf, whether the teeth actually kind of pointed to the left or to the right, which would give you a little bit bigger a path when it cut. I don't know if they had those back in the day, or they did that on even the pinned-in blades. That I'm not aware of. But basically, that's your standard tooth blade and what it looks like. It works very good. I used them for years and years and years before there was anything else that I knew about, and they cut very well. The problem with any kind of a blade that has all the teeth going in one direction and only cuts in one direction is the fact that, like for instance, on the downstroke on the bottom, you're going to have a rougher rougher cut on the bottom. It's not going to be as smooth. And also, when you stack a bunch of teeth in here, you can't. One of the biggest reasons saw blades, including bandsaws and scroll saws, get a lot of burning or get a lot of problems with burning is because the sawdust gets trapped in that kerf and it can't get rid of it. So therefore, it starts to gum up the blade, and the blade starts to burn. The wood starts to smoke. Everything goes wrong. So it needs to get rid of that sawdust out of that channel as it's cutting. Otherwise, it clogs up in there and binds up. And that's one of the things that these blades had a problem with. Then along, and don't ask me the actual timing of these, because I really don't know. I just know that they come out with some other blades that would help. And one of the blades that would help when you were cutting certain woods, especially hardwoods and thicker woods with a scroll saw, was what we call a skip tooth blade. Now, that had fewer teeth, and once again, I'm not sure about if it had a kerf to the where the teeth were pitched to the left or to the right, but it had fewer teeth, and it was really great about getting rid of the sawdust that was in the kerf. It could throw it out a lot better. Skip tooth was good for thinner woods, no problems. But in your thicker and harder woods, or the standard tooth, I mean, and then in your thicker and harder woods, the skip tooth was a whole lot better and worked a whole lot better. And basically, they're basically the same. There were just less teeth. That's the reason I call it skip tooth. They just missed one tooth, every other tooth on it, or whatever. And then you come out. Then you had something which was called the double tooth. Basically, like the skip tooth. It's just they paired the blades up and put more space in between the pairs. Basically did the same thing. Still all the teeth are pointing in one direction. Did a real good job with helping to get rid of the sawdust and the kerf and cut and everything. All these blades are lacking, though. What they're lacking is they don't produce as smooth as a cut as you would expect. And that's to do the same. The more teeth on the blade, the smoother the cut. But then you sacrifice, if you try to cut some thicker or harder woods, that's when you start getting the problems with the burning and stuff. So you have to go with the fewer teeth to sacrifice one for the other. So that went around. Then they come out with some stuff called, then you had a reverse skip tooth. Now, I think that was one of the beginnings of when they were experimenting. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I do remember that they came out with this, and what they did was I think they started experimenting or finally figuring out that they could turn the teeth on the bottom side up and this down, and then you could cut basically on the up and down stroke with the reverse skip tooth. I'm not sure about the time period when all these come out. Once again, all I'm just telling you is about my knowledge of the blades and what they do. So, but then you have the reverse skip tooth. That worked really well. I've used these in harder or thicker woods, and it cleared the path out, but yet it gives you somewhat of a smooth bottom. Not totally smooth, but still it was better than just totally the upstroke. Any questions? Nobody's?
Steve French, I think he cracked a joke, said about easy wood tools at Lowe's.
Steve French, you are becoming not my friends. Yeah. Not my friend Steve.
And also, TJ's Woodworking Shop said, today is Wednesday, my friends, not Saturday.
Yeah.
LOL.
Yeah, I tried to do the Twitch thing, and some of y'all are coming on board right now and don't know how many we got over there.
Oh, we're at 16 now.
16. I tried to do the Twitch thing, and Twitch, the site itself is totally down. And I posted that little Al Forte, who's out there, actually private messaged me over on Facebook and showed me that little outage chart, and I posted it for everybody else to see so they could see it. But then you come along with a reverse skip tooth, and fairly good job for thicker materials and everything, and it worked very good. I've used it. Still not what I would say as good and smooth of a cut that we can produce now with some of the blades we have nowadays, but it was very good. And still, if you're going to cut some really hard wood like Babinga or stuff, and you're not really having to worry about the smoothness of the cut or whatever, if you're trying, yeah, here in my refrigerator, it keeps doing that. I don't know if y'all could hear it or not, but then you could use this. They still make skip tooth blades, and they still make double tooth blades, and so you could get one of those. But then they come along with a precision ground, and the precision ground is basically just like a reverse tooth up and down, but they've actually most of your scroll saw blades are actually stamped. They're stamped out of the metal. They're stamped from one side to the other, and that burr, because of stamping, is what causes them to want to cut. I will call it to the right, or cut what in the opposite. Cut in the direction that you have to turn your material to get it to cut straight. So that's because of the stamp and because of the burr on one side of the blade that's causing that. Precision ground, when they came along, they actually do more of a grinding process on it, which smooths the blade out, which supposedly doesn't want to cut or pull in the direction as bad. They're supposed to be a much better. I have never really played around or messed with precision ground because along came. Now, most of these blades are somewhat.
TJ says he has to go.
TJ's Woodworking?
Yep. And he said he's got to go take care of a few things.
Oh, well, sorry, TJ. I wish you could stay around. Most of these blades, now this is an Olsen chart that you can actually download on the internet. It's readily available. Type in Olsen blade chart and it'll pop up and you can see. And that tells you all of their blades. And then I've got the Flying Dutchman chart. I got it straight off of Mike's workshop. It basically doesn't tell. This is a pretty nice chart. I wish something Flying Dutchman came out with a chart like this, but it doesn't tell. But if you'll download this chart and look at the Olsen chart, you will see all of the blades that I'm talking about pretty well follow along. They've got some kind of a representation of them, even in the Olsen blades and also in the Flying Dutchman. The penguin. I'll say it like penguin.
You're gonna catch it for that one.
Yeah, penguin silver is kind of like a double tooth. What did I call it? Yeah, a double tooth blade, the penguin silver. And then they got the penguin silver reverse, and that kind of resembles the reverse skip tooth over in a Flying Dutchman. The aluminum cutter, or just basically like the standard tooth on a Flying Dutchman. It just has finer, smaller teeth. The heavy duty is like that. Now, when I see the representation of a heavy duty of the Flying Dutchman, the representation of theirs actually shows a kerf on the heavy duty. In other words, the teeth on the heavy duty have a kerf where one tooth is out to the left and one tooth is out to the right, back and forth. One of the other ones that I see that they have that on is the XL has that also. It has that kind of a kerf to it. The rest of them kind of look, I think the two-way cut does too, but I'm not sure.
Jim Bashirs wants to know which of these blades wanders the worst. All
of them do. I mean, they all kind of want to wander. the thing that helps keep them from wandering is as you go up in size from like 1, 3, 5, from 1 will kind of want to wander if you're not used to it a little bit more because it's so thin. 3 and 5 are not as bad as 1, but if you're talking about the kerf where they want to cut to the side, all Flying Dutchmans do that. I don't think other than the spiral. That's the only one that doesn't do that.
I think he might have been just talking about which style blade, not the actual Flying Dutchman.
Oh, which style blade? That would be the Pegasus. The Pegasus that I tried last week. They are not supposed to have, and they didn't seem that I had to turn the material as bad as the Flying Dutchman or the Olsen. Olsen, even you have to turn the material on also. All right, let's go a little bit further. Now, the crown tooth, Flying Dutchman does not make a crown tooth blade, okay? That seems to be strictly in the Olsen. And I have used the crown tooth, and to me, it's more like the ultra reverse or the scroll reverse of the Olsen blades. And that to me was one of the better cutting blades that I had tried in the Olsen, was the crown tooth. It seemed to give a really nice clean cut up and down stroke, and it didn't cut. It was slow for me to cut with it, but I noticed that it cut. I didn't have as much problems with it when I was cutting with it. It was a little bit more accurate, easier to control, and it gave a very, very smooth cut, the crown tooth. Like I said, that's one of those that I think I know that Flying Dutchman doesn't have a crown tooth, so I don't know if it's only the... you're just going to have to unplug that stupid thing, because the fan's making that noise again. But anyway, so the crown tooth is one of them, and that was, like I said, of the Olsen blades, it was one of the ones that I really kind of liked, and of them I would choose is that one. Now we're talking about some of the exclusive ones that are for Flying Dutchman, and they come out first was what they call the scroll reverse. The teeth were a little bit thinner, and they turned the teeth half of them were up and half of them down, like in this depiction, so that they would cut on the up and the downstroke, and they were a little bit thinner, a little bit finer. So the scroll reverse, when I first started using them, I used them exclusively for almost all my cutting. They were like the Mac Daddy for a long time, and for years and years and years I used them. Then one day I was talking to Mike over at Mike's workshop before he passed away. But and we were talking one day. He says, "Man, I've got some new blades in that you just want to try." And I'm like, "What's that?" And then they come along with the Ultra Reverse, and you can see how those blades are stacked back and forth in the opposite somewhat direction, how that is made. And he sent me some of them, and I used them, and as soon as I started using them, I fell in love with them. And pretty much 80 to 90% of everything I cut now is with either a 1 or a 3 Ultra Reverse blade. And I have cut stuff up to 3/4 inch mahogany and cherry with a number 3 Ultra Reverse. Now when you get up to the thicker material, when you start to get up to 3/4 or more, 1/2 inch seems to be not the problem, but you have to slow down because you will get some burning if you push this blade too quick. In a harder material like cherry or mahogany, you definitely will get some burning on there. So you just have to take your time. Understand you're going with a thicker, harder wood. This thing is designed to cut on the upstroke and the downstroke. It clears, because of the teeth design, they're a little bit thinner. It clears the wood out really, really, really well, except when you push it really hard. And it gives you an incredibly smooth cut on hardwoods, especially. I mean, I've cut some cherry and some mahogany and some different materials like that to the point you don't even have to sand the interior cuts on 90% of it. I mean, it's just so smooth. You don't even have to sand. So that's one of the reasons I fell in love with this. Number 3 Ultra Reverse will cut through your construction grade pine, like your 1x12 from Home Depot. It'll cut through it like hot butter. I mean, it goes right through without any problem. I've used Ultra Reverse on compound cutting on 1.5 inch thick material. Once again, you can't push it. You got to slow it down. It works very, 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 very well.
Got a couple questions.
Huh?
Got a couple questions over here.
Okay.
Al Forte wants your opinion on spiral blades.
We're going to get to those in just a few minutes.
Okay, and or no, I'm sorry. Al Forte wants to know, if you were to buy some blades which to have on hand, what type of assortment do you recommend, both flat and spiral? And David Bishop asks, any thoughts on those spiral blades?
Okay. If I were to purchase blades, I would buy ones and ones, threes, and the ultra reverse, maybe some fives, depending on what, if you plan on cutting some real thick stuff. And that being said, make sure you understand when you buy those ultra reverse, you're not, once the wood starts getting thick and once the wood starts getting a hardwood, you're not going to cut fast. You're going to have to learn to cut slow. But it will cut it, and it'll give you some superb looking cuts when you do. And as far as the spirals, I would go with the Flying Dutchman spirals with flat ends. They make those are very, very, very good, and I would get them in ones and threes also. Ones and threes are about all. I have some fives, I have some sevens that I ordered way back, and they've been around forever, and I still haven't used. I used them a couple of times, and I'm like, why do I need these? 90% of what I order anymore is ones and threes. That's all I need. Now, that being said, they have a spiral. The Flying Dutchman has a spiral, and it's actually got a spiral with flat ends, and a spiral reverse, and a new spiral. Now, I've tried the spiral reverse, and I've tried the new spiral, and those are most excellent, excellent, excellent. In the spiral reverse, and spiral blades, let's go to that real quick. Let me pull out my little, you're going to laugh at this one, guys. You're going to really love this. This is my little depiction of what a spiral blade looks like. And I made this for y'all, just so y'all could see what a spiral looks like. Oh, actually it goes this way. So basically, in a spiral blade, all they have done is taken a blade and twisted it around and around and around so that the teeth go in all different directions. That's all a spiral blade basically is. They just stick out. They kind of like, it's almost like they gnaw the wood or sand the wood away. I mean, they cut, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of the thing they use because they clear a pretty good path. Now, for years, they didn't have what was called the 2/0 spiral. They have come out with those now, and those are really, really, really fine blades. And they cut like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they are, man, I've used them in 3/4 inch material, and I was like, holy crap, how fast. They just like hog everything out and go to town. The two things, you can't tension them to full tension on a 2/0, and also they don't last as long. They have a tendency to break only because they're so thin. They are absolutely, it's like a 2/0 blade twisted, so they're just incredibly thin and they break really, really easy. I have a spiral in here. Matter of fact, I was going to try to get to, if we do tonight, some I was going to cut with a spiral for a while. I had a pattern picked out, and I kind of like the spiral with the flat ends. They work very well. If I was, other than that, the new spiral, the ultra reverse spiral is what I would order. The ultra reverse spirals, that's another thing, have a tendency to give you a rough cut. The cut is not as smooth, and it looks like a little tearing of the wood, and because of the spiral. So the ultra reverse and the new spiral did a fantastic job on smoothing that out, and the 2/0 did too. With the new spiral, they did a fantastic job of smoothing that down so you didn't get the rough cut that you did with some of the other older spirals when they first came out. So I actually use, now what I'm using tonight, or have in here tonight, is the Flying Dutchman spiral with flat ends 3/0. That's what's in here as of right now that I was going to mess around with. And I've also got some, now a lot of people have problems getting those spiral blades.
You had several compliments on your model of your spiral blade.
Thank you.
And Debbie Shipman says she can't tell which way is up on the spiral blades, even with a magnifying glass.
You really don't need to know which way is up. Unless they're a reverse blade, there's no up, so to speak, because the way that's twisted, they all go one direction or another, so it'll cut either way. Now I have some ultra reverse, and this thing is actually wore off because I took them somewhere one day and it was raining and it got wet. So I know these are ultra reverse, but I'm not quite sure what size they are. It's kind of wore off. Now, one of the problems that people have with the spirals, and I'll give you a warning about that, and I'm not sure what these are either over here, because I'll give you a warning about it. Hold on. Yeah, those ultra reverse also. Is that people have with the spirals, especially with the ends of them, getting them into the blade holder and getting them to stay in there because of the spiral, the little twist on the ends. The flat spirals with flat ends work much better. There's a couple of things you can do to help that. We talked to somebody the other day. Some of the spirals, actually, when they first came out, some of the bigger ones, the number 3s, actually had more. They actually took more than one blade and put in there and twisted it, so you had multiple ends at the end. And I didn't like those. They were very hard for me to even get in. The way that I found out what I would do them is, you can't hammer down on them really hard, but you could lay them on a flat surface like an anvil or the flat part of your vise, metal vise, and take a hammer and like tap on them and flatten them out somewhat. And that seemed to help when you put them into your blade holder on your saw. People were talking about taking a pair of pliers and twisting them out and straighten them up and everything. I've heard that before too. I just had very good success with just tapping them lightly. If you go hammering, number one, all these blades are very brittle. They break real easy. And then number two, they're so thin, you go hammering down on them, you're going to flatten them out or break them right off the bat. So you'd have to use little taps on the end of them. Once again, if you order the spirals with the flat ends, you don't have that. They flattened out the end for you, so you don't have that problem. Any questions over there?
David Bishop, I think his question was about Flying Dutchman. His scroll saw is a pin-in style and wants to know if they make it.
No.
Nope. In the spiral form.
Nope. Flying Dutchman makes no pinned-in blades, and neither does Olsen, as far as I know. You're going to have to go to some other kind of... they quit. A lot of places quit. You can find them in Craftsman. Still make some pinned-in blades and stuff like that, but they're getting really hard to find. I have some old pinned-in blades myself from years ago.
Does anyone offer the pinned-in blade? David Bishop says.
I know Sears Craftsman still makes pinned-in blades, and you can find them online on there, on the Sears Craftsman online. That's one of the only ones I know of off the top of my head. I can do some research and look around for you if you wanted me to, but type in pinned-in scroll saw blades into Google and see what pops up. But I know that Sears Craftsman still produces pinned-in scroll saw blades. Okay, so yeah, y'all like my little representation? And if you'll notice, if this is the representation of the ultra reverse, so some of the teeth are going in this direction and some of the teeth are going in this direction, so that this spiral blade is cutting on the up and the downstroke, which makes it very smooth on the top and the bottom and in between. So it works very well.
Charles is here.
Cool. Some of the Flying Dutchman blades are the aluminum cutter, like I said, heavy duty Iron Man. They have a jeweler blade. A jeweler blade is like your standard tooth blade. Most of these that I've just read off, the aluminum, heavy duty, Iron Man, and jeweler, are all like a standard tooth blade. The difference is the type and how many and how fine the blades. Like an aluminum cutter has really fine teeth blades compared to the jeweler, which is a little bit thicker, but jewelers get really small. The Penguin Silver and Penguin Silver Reverse, like I said, are equal to the skip tooth and the double tooth. A Polar Flying Dutchman. Those are very good to cut bone and stuff like that. Some of your harder materials, they will cut very good like that. You've got the spiral with flat ends, the spiral reverse, and the new spiral. The spiral reverse and the new spiral is the ones I'll really like, but you have to put up with the ends. If you don't want to do that, you can sacrifice a little bit of the clean of the cut and go with the spiral with flat ends. Learn with that one and then maybe make a transition over to the others, and that might help you. Superior Puzzle Blade. They are basically designed like the standard tooth as far as the way their teeth, once again, smaller and orientation. Two-way cut, ultra reverse, and the XL. Now it shows here a depiction of the XL on here, which is right down here. Here it is over here. That they have a kind of a kerf on the XL. It shows the blade, the teeth going left and right. So, and then for your Olsen, they have the PGT Precision Ground Tooth. They claim that's one of the best. And they pretty much look like along the line of the reverse, ultra reverse, and the scroll reverse of the Flying Dutchman, the PGT. I used them, didn't really care for them that much. The crown tooth is an Olsen pretty much exclusive, which is this one. That's pretty much an Olsen exclusive. You have the reverse tooth, which once again kind of reminds me of the ultra reverse and the scroll reverse. Flat end spirals and spirals, they have those also. And then they have the new Mach Speed, which are really a smaller tooth. It tells you they're accurate, tight radius cuts, steady close radius cuts, fast close radius cuts are some of the things that they talk about those blades. The PGT Precision Ground Tooth, they say they're ultra smooth finish, straight or close radius cuts, clean edges. So now, like I said, you can download this for some of you just joining. Just type in Olsen blade chart into Google, and I wish Flying Dutchman would do something. Something we haven't got into, I'll go into real quick. And as a general rule, you got 1, 3, 5, 7, and they even have 9, I believe. As a general rule, 1s are for thinner material, 3 moves on up, 5, 7, naturally you can cut thicker and thicker material. They're a bigger and a thicker blade. So if you're wanting to get in a lot of thicker material sometimes. Now sometimes I do have some 5s and 7, and there's been a few times when I wanted to cut something out of a 2x4 that I'll just throw one of those 5s or 7s in there and cut with it. And they work pretty doggone well. They're really, I think this is not even a, I think this is a 9. Can y'all guys see the size of this? That is a 9. That's a hefty blade right there, buddy. Especially when you can want to compare it to a number 1 beside it as an ultra reverse. That's a hefty blade like that. But that thing will gnaw through a 2x4 like you wouldn't believe. So it's really great for that, but don't plan on it being really accurate or whatever, but you can just gnaw through a 2x4 with that sucker without any problem. Now this is the ultra reverse in a number 1 right here, so I know they're 2 totally different blades. I'm just giving you the difference between a 1 and a 9. Big difference. Even when you go with a 3, I don't even think I have any 3s out. Yeah, this is a 3 that I was using.
Joseph had a question, and I'm sorry, Joseph, if I didn't get to it earlier. Have you tried any of the blades that are made by Intarsia people?
Honestly, I don't know there was any blades made by Intarsia people. Most of the Intarsia people I know use these. The Flying Dutchman, the scroll, and the ultra reverse. So that's a little something new to me. And anything I've ever done in Intarsia, I've always used I started off with the scroll reverse, and I use the ultra reverse now, just because of the cleanness of the cut. So, I mean, you're doing a lot of sanding on the Intarsia, so you could get by. You don't have to have a clean cut as much because you're doing so much sanding and shaping. But I mean, if I was to do Intarsia tomorrow, I'd use probably a 3 ultra reverse. So, and now I wanted to show you. I don't know if you can really tell that much over the camera or not, but this is the number 1. That's a 3 ultra reverse, and then like I said, that's like a 7 or a 9. I think that's a 9. That's a big Mac Daddy right there. So I have cut in intricate cuts on stuff that's 3/4 of an inch thick. I've used a number 1. It took me a longer time, but the precision of the cut was so fantastic that people look at it and go like, wow. And so 3/4 of an inch thick cherry, 3/4 of an inch thick oak, 3/4 of an inch thick mahogany, intricate cuts I've done number 1. Now, if I was branching out into the open parts, I would jump up to a number 3 or number 5. And then you could get a little bit more speed with a 3 or 5. But with the ultra reverse, once again, you're getting such a smooth cut that most of the time you don't even have to worry about sanding the interior cuts. But as a general rule, I want to go back. That is 1, 3s, 5s. The bigger the number, the bigger the blade in size, actually, and it supposedly cuts bigger material. So, will this number 1 cut as fast as this number 9? Heck no. That sucker is that's like a bandsaw blade on a scroll saw. So that's just obvious. It's not going to cut as quick. Will the number 1 cut through it? Yes. You just can't push yourself and push this blade and push the speed. So when people ask that about the 1s, 3s, 5s, 7s, you can kind of use this chart for the Olsen for the Flying Dutchman too, because basically, other than the crown tooth, the rest of them are almost the same type of blades, you know. And this is not really a chart. This is just, if you go onto Mike's workshop, I just copied this off of there so I could see the different types of Flying Dutchman blades that they have available to you. So that's just straight off of his website, and I just left the prices off of it. So, anything more on blades? If I was a newbie to spirals and wanted to get used to using spirals, I would order the flat end blades from Flying Dutchman and try them first and get a hang of them. Something. What? Huh?
They said Niantic, sorry if I mispronounced this, said need another demo.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about real quick as we go over this is a little ornament that I've cut for quite a few years for Christmas or whatever, is the difference. Spirals have a tendency to have a thicker kerf than a straight blade. In other words, if you're using a number 1 spiral, it tends to have a thicker kerf than actually a number 1 flat blade. And where spirals can come in really, really handy is, and this is an example I'm going to point out there to you, is doing what we call veining. Veining is where you just have a line in the wood and you run your blade down through there to just to give it a line so that people can see in the wood. And spirals are awesome for that, because their kerf's a little thicker than a flat blade. They open up the area and give you a much more distinctive line where it's harder to get it with a flat blade. It's easier to make this veining with the spiral blade. So this is just something as depicted. His mustache and everything and all this was done with a 2/0 spiral blade, which we call veining. So if you need to do some veining, have a pattern that has just regular straight lines in it, I would highly recommend. And they're jagged lines, not really straight like in this depiction here. I would highly recommend that you would use a spiral blade, either a 1 or a 2/0 to do your veining. This was small enough I could get away with a 2. I use a 1 spiral a lot to do veining, to open it up where you can see it. So that's why I wanted to show you that. Is about spiral blades are very, very good for veining. The rest of this was all cut with a flat blade, and I have done literally no sanding on the interior portions of I know it's hard for you to see with the camera. Webcams kind of suck when it comes to focusing on objects. So I've done hardly no sanding, none whatsoever. And we can do one night. I can pull one of these out and do some what?
Steve French asked if that's a self-portrait.
A self-portrait? Yeah, this is my self-portrait.
And Al Forte asks, working with a number 1, what drill size you use with a 3 and with a 5?
Oh, you would have to ask me that. That I'm going to have to remember, because I don't even remember. I know that I have the drill sizes, but I don't remember what the sizes depict for the blade. We'll have to have a one on that where I go back and get the actual sizes. I have all of these. Now these come from my good friend Carl. These micro drill sets, but these all come from Flying Dutchman twist drill bits. And off the top of my head, Al, I can't remember the distinction between. I will tell you this much: if you go to their site on the Flying Dutchman, when you order the 1s and 3s, and we'll have a thing on blades one night where I go over and talk about blades and making good decisions on where you drill your holes, and we'll talk about blade sizes and everything. It's just off the top of my head, I don't remember, because 90% of the time when I order the blades and I order the drill bits with them, it tells you this needs to be such and such blade size. And I'm sorry, I just can't off the top of my head remember. So, like if you go to order a number 1 spiral, it'll say recommended blade size, and I'm just pulling this off the top of my head, so don't write this down. It'll say recommended blade size, like a number 81 or a 71 or a 65 or whatever, and that's the blades or the drill bits you want to order with that blade. Sorry, I can't. Like I said, I've got 57s in here, 63s, 68s, 71s. I've got all different sizes in here. More 68s, 63s, 63, 68. So
Al Forte also asks, do you use that chuck on your drill press?
Yes, that's one of the main reasons it is for, because most of your hand drills are not, most of your smaller hand drills nowadays can accept smaller bits, and they used to not be able to, but we've gone to the battery powered, so they're a little bit better. Some of your electric 3/8 inch drills, they couldn't even get small enough to be able to chuck up some of these bits. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Because these things are really, really, really small. Now that is a 71. And that's how small it is. So yes, my preferred before I ever got this, and I got this from Carl Taylor. My preferred was before I got this, and I'll show you, is I had a Dremel. Let's compare real quick the 71 to, here's a 57. I'll tell you real quick, like, helps if I open the right end. Oh, I'm out of 57s. That's a blank tube. That's not good. Why do I have a blank tube in there? Or did they spill out in here? We got some 63s. We'll compare the 63s. Okay, so the 63 is a little bit bigger than the 71. So obviously, as they go, the numbers go up, the bits get smaller. See, that's one of the things I couldn't remember. It's kind of the opposite. Most of the time in a blade, if it goes 1, 3, 5, the 5 is bigger than the 1. And the bits, I think that's almost the opposite. The higher the number, the smaller the bit. So that's always been confusing for me. But yeah, these 63s are definitely bigger than these 71s. And I think they make some, I think I've got some, let me look in here and see if I got any 80s. But anyway, back to what I was talking about, was one of the best things that I used for years and years and years is I had a Dremel, and the Dremel, well, that's kind of useful because of the black background, had the cord where you could use it to do grinding and all kind of stuff, the cable, I want to say, the hand cable, and it actually broke, and here, I'll lay it down here. It actually broke. The cable snapped off in the line. Well, these things, these chucks on the end of a Dremel are fantastic for small bits. And so I just cut this thing out of the end of the Dremel cable, and I've been using it for years in my drill press and in my regular drills, and it works great as a bit holder. Matter of fact, I hardly even use that chuck, as I'm waiting for this to break, so I'll force me to go to the chuck. But that's just the end of a Dremel cable that had broke on the one I had. Actually, it was in warranty, and they sent me another cable, so I just took this thing apart and used it. And that's what I use either in my drill, I chuck it up, or I use in my drill press. But if you're using a drill press, you definitely want to chuck like this, or like the one I just had, because the drill press can't get, the 1/2-inch drill press can't get that small to grab a hold of the bit. You'll never do it. We will spend a night on talking about drill. What time is it?
We're getting to 9 o'clock, 3 till 9.
3 till 9. Do a show on drill bits, and we'll discuss their sizes and compare it. I'll show you the comparison. I'll do my homework and have some charts set up and such where I can talk about it. I'm sorry I do not know more, because of the fact I usually refer back to the Flying Dutchman site, and I'll go over there and look, and it says if you order 2/0 spiral blades, this is the drill bit size you need to order, and that's how I order them. They do the work for me, and this is what I keep all my drill bits in here, and my chuck and everything. Now, Carl Taylor sent me these micro drill bits. These things are like just like awesomely small. I've got some blades in here. I notice. I don't know what they're doing in here. They're not supposed to be in here. Any more questions?
Nope. I think we're ready for the demo.
Ready for me to do a little scrolling? That's fine. I'm going to need to take like a 1 minute, you know, like we talked about this last time. I need to take like a 1 minute break. As I get a little older, I find out my bladder doesn't hold as well as they used to, so to speak. This is the pattern I chose to work on tonight, and we're going to be using exclusively. This is a number 3 spiral, Flying Dutchman spiral with flat ends. And so when I get back after taking my minute or two break, we'll start working on that for a little bit. What time did we get started? I don't even remember.
I do believe we got started a little late.
Like 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it was around 8:15, somewhere between there.
Okay. So we may go for until 9:30. I'll tell you what, y'all post over there if y'all are going to hang out until 9:30, and we'll go to 9:30.
Well, hey Charles, sorry. Didn't want to be off camera just talking to no one. You can't see my facial expressions.
What Charles said?
He said, say something, Cameron. I guess he didn't like the...
Quiet?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I went and bought Cameron a brand spanking new microphone so that he could actually talk to y'all guys and have his own private little mic over there where he's at today.
So since I guess he bought me a mic, I guess I have to use it.
Yeah.
And not just sit here in quiet silence.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
9:30 is fine with mostly everyone that I see.
Okay. All right, so we'll start up here in some of the smaller holes and everything. One of the things that when I get started on this, we'll talk about with a spiral blade, and Charles and I have kind of talked about this before too, is, all right, let me make this statement and maybe y'all can understand a little bit better when I make this statement is, and I teach this to my students, and that is, let me get this around here where y'all can see me better, is when you go to cut a pattern, you've got three choices to make. Are you going to cut to the right of the line? Are you going to cut on the line? Or are you going to cut to the left of the line or outside the line? So you've got that line. Where are you going to cut? Predominantly with me, I cut down the center of the line. That's just, I've done it from day one. I always cut down the center. With a spiral blade, and I'm sure Charles is going to attest to this, you don't want to do that. You want to cut, for instance, if I'm cutting out the black here, and I want the white to stay, you kind of like need to cut to the inside of the line somewhat and kind of sneak, I'm going to call it sneak up on it, because a spiral has a tendency in any wood that you're cutting, and I've noticed that over the years of using them, to kind of like follow the path of least resistance. So if you've got some real soft wood and you're cutting along with a spiral, it'll have a tendency to want to wander into that soft wood because, hey, it's nice over here. I can cut this really easy. I don't have to struggle. And so that being said, if your soft wood is up against that line or goes out past that line and you don't try to sneak up on it, so to speak, next thing you know, you're out past the line. So, and also another thing with a spiral is you can go back and waller out or use it like a piece of sandpaper and cut out that. So if you sneak up to the line and you go through and you cut and then you come back and you see, well, hey, I left a little bit more, I will say black in that area than I really wanted to, and you can go back and kind of correct that and gnaw out that up to the line over in that area. Charles, do you agree with me? He's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. He said what he said, slightly inside.
Yeah. Just cut slightly inside.
Because you can nibble at the line.
Yep. You can go in and nibble at the line. So is this going to be where y'all can see? And here, I can zoom in. Let me get my...
How's the picture, everyone?
Okay, so that's what I'm going to do with this 3, is I'm just going to just waller in and cut out the areas of the black. Now, if you can see, now that is just a spiral. Let me see if I can get it up there. With flat ends, and that's pretty nice. I mean, that's a flying Dutchman. Look at that. That's a pretty nice cut, guys. That is. Not a lot of tear out on the back side. That looks pretty good. Now I'm getting some on the top. It's a little rough here on the top, but that's the paper. That's kind of I don't want to say it rough. It's roughing up the paper as I cut through it. So, but the back side, once I take this pattern off, it won't be as rough as that. It'll look like the back. go into this feather. Now, I will tell you this much. I have cut so predominantly much with flat blades over the year that I have a tendency to forget. Now, see, I'm having a little problems getting this thing into this blade holder, and even with the flat ends, it wants to give me a little bit of a hard time. I still wanted to flip my material, and I don't have to, because a spiral blade is omnidirectional. It can cut 360 degrees. All I should do is just move my piece around, but you'll see me flip this thing around when I'm cutting because it's just out of habit of using the flat blade. So now this section over here, this is almost like veining. I mean, it really is. I don't need to really go in there and do too much more than that. There might be a little black in a few of these areas, but basically that one pass with a number 3 took care of that. And you'll look and you'll say, oh, you're leaving a little bit of black. But yes, see what I'm doing? I'm going through and then I'm coming back and kind of cleaning it up after I went by. And you'll say, well, this is not the best depiction of a good spiral pattern because it's kind of big and open. I did that intentionally. I don't use spiral blades and I haven't used them in a while, so I need a little practice. I ain't pulling out nothing intricate until I've had a little practice.
Miter mics, do you wax your deck before every project?
No, I wax it. I can tell when I can feel it, and once I feel it and say, hey, it needs to be waxed, I'll clean it and wax it. Sometimes it's because, too, I do it, and I'm fixing to have to do it along this edge over here. You can't see, but I might show you with the camera after I get through cutting, is where my hands sit. It'll start to want to kind of rust. You see my hand in the picture over here, and it's time to clean it at that point. You know, patterns with spirals are like fantastic. You don't have to always follow the line. That's the advantage of them. Now, I'm going to go ahead and try to attempt to cut down the side of this, and hopefully this thing don't break. And I'm intentionally going to leave a little bit of black in there, so this thing is so thin, I don't want it to break. Once again, the advantage of having a spiral is you can depict where you want to go, because who in the world's going to know what the pattern looks like once the paper's been taken off? Now, I didn't try to flip that piece out of there. A lot of times I'll take my blade and flip it out because this piece is just so skinny right there. But most of this rough that you're seeing here is not the blade or roughness, and I'll actually show you that in just a second. The top part of this is going to look just as good as the back part, or the bottom part. Once I take that paper off, the top part's going to look just this good. So that's a real nice, little rough inside, but this is not an ultra reverse blade. But still, perfect for a portrait pattern. Let's go up here and get this guy out of the way. Yeah, Charles is probably going to say I'm cheating because I'm not doing one of his patterns. I ain't going to break. Oh, didn't even get it in there. I'm not going to break out into one of your patterns, dude, until I've played around on a few of these. Wow, see, it's sometimes, even with me, spirals can have a tendency to be a pain to get in that blade holder, even the ones with flat ends.
David Bishop said, keep in between the navigational beacons.
Yep.
Miter Mike asked, do you always start with the small areas or just do it in sections?
I do it. Whatever looks good. I usually generally pick an area to do. Like on this one, I'm going to choose to do all the feathers over on this side and then work my way across the pattern back this way. That's just my preference. I pick an area to work in. I could have picked his head first or the bottom first or whatever, but I just saw these and was like, yeah, I'll work on these feather pieces first and knock them out and get them out of the way.
Does it cut better in one of the directions?
You see, cut better. I've always found pushing the wood like I would do in a flat blade. To me, it seems to cut better that way. Is that true or not? Oh, look at this.
No.
This is getting, no, it's just slipping. I'm not getting it in there, locked in there, just right. I'm sure if this was Charles Deering, he'd be halfway through cutting this thing right now. Yeah, that doesn't feel natural to me. It feels more natural like this. It just feels more natural. It's hard to judge. I think it cuts better the same way a straight blade would cut, but once again,
is that a size 3 blade, 3/0?
Yeah, 3/0. 3/0 spiral with flat ends. That's not the one I want to go for. This is the one I want. Where's Charles when you need him?
Charles said he's too humble to deny your comment on him doing it faster.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious I'm not going to get this whole thing cut out tonight, but what I will do is probably work on it this week and get it all cut out and post pictures of what it looks like after I got it all cut out. The bad thing about this is, once you get to going, that sawdust starts filling in all the holes in the back and you can't see where the holes are. Yeah, a long time ago I decided I was going to master the spiral. And I just sit down and one day all I did was cut with spirals until I finally got the hang of it and figured out how they work. You'll see me go back over and clean it up a little bit. That's because it's hard to tell with all that sawdust, because the spiral makes a lot, and I do mean a lot more sawdust than a flat blade. So it's really hard to tell where you've been cutting sometimes without getting the sawdust out of the way. Ah! And I broke a blade. Jeez. Get that other stupid thing out of my way. Wasn't that special?
Miter Mike asked about the dust collection.
What about it?
How do you put it on the saw?
Dust collection?
Think you're a dust collector, as in your squirrel cage fan?
Yeah, I've got a squirrel cage fan over there. I haven't even got it on because it has a tendency to make too much noise. But I've got a big 4-inch tube underneath my table, and then I've got this that I can turn on and come and suck up the sawdust. It's a hose. I'll back out before I get away, but if I run it, it makes too much of a hum and y'all won't be able to hear me as clear or as good. So now what I will do a lot of times is, like I'm doing right now, I'll go ahead with this and attach the blade in the top blade holder, and then I can look down through that hole and put the bottom one in by looking through my magnifying light. And then once I get the bottom one in and snug, ew, a little cut on my...
I'm trying, guys. Sometimes they all pop up at once, and I can't decipher which name is which.
What question?
Yeah, I accidentally asked a question from someone, and I said it was Jim, or Jim asked a question, but it was actually Miter Mike.
Oh, okay. Hey, he's new to this, guys.
Or
give him a break.
vice versa. Yeah, sorry, guys.
He's new to this. Where the heck is my hole? I found it. I found it. All right, Mr. Spirals, quit giving me such a hard time. Yeah, see, right now I'm going the opposite direction. I'm actually cutting with the back side of the blade, and that feels awkward to me. It feels much better if I do this. That feels more normal. And there's nothing wrong with flipping the work around. I just feel that the blade even cuts better when I'm pushing from this direction. And it can't possibly be true because the teeth are 360 degrees around it. This is a real poor pattern too. It's very pixelated, I noticed. I don't know if y'all can see it on camera, but I'm looking through my magnifying glass.
It's not bad, but it's,
yeah. And it's very pixelated on. I think I'm going to go and cut this out first.
Dave Hart wants to know where's the pattern from.
I'm not sure. I found it on my computer.
Perks of being able to make.
Yeah, I went on my computer. Yeah, I don't know if it's. I don't remember if it's mine or. I just saw it and went like, that would be a nice one to be able to cut tonight. It's not. It's not too big. And not too hard for me to look like an idiot. So that's how I chose it. Honestly, don't remember. I could go back and research, and I try to keep the patterns if I download them from some places and they're not mine in file folders that are marked. And I wasn't paying any attention. I just was scanning through trying to figure out a pattern for tonight and run across this one. I was just going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. I hate it when I do that. You have a thought that comes to mind, and it would be a good moment to say, and I was cutting, and then the thought just as the wind blows, just blew right out.
Like the feather of an Indian's hair.
Yep. It was just gone that quick. Maybe I'll think about it in a minute. Question for Mike. Is Mike still out there?
Yeah, Mike's actually just commented.
Okay. When you were cutting Charles's kitten pattern, did you notice you use spiral blades? Did you notice how it would kind of like rough up the paper on the pattern? Did you notice that? And then after you got through cutting and you pulled the pattern off, you're going like, wow, that's a lot smoother than what I thought, because the paper pattern gives you an idea that it could be kind of rough. Are we working on 9:30 yet?
We're 3 minutes out.
3 minutes out, okay. Well, guys, I'm sorry about the Twitch thing. Unfortunately, it was nothing I could do. Way out of my control.
Modern Mike said his was rough on the bottom.
On the bottom, but not your paper pattern wasn't rough? On the top? It was real smooth? What blades were you using, by the way?
Charles said go till 10 was.
Go till 10.
Go till 10. Midnight. I don't think we can party that late. I got to work in the morning, Charles.
Yeah, I ain't partying that late. Oop. Forgot to put the tension on. I can hear it. And it was funny when I was teaching the class this past Saturday, is two things. I've gotten so used to being around a scroll saw. I think I got sawdust in my mustache, by the way. Anyway, one of them is if you don't take the tension off of this and you turn this little knob and pop the blade, you'll always hear that beep or a pop noise. And as soon as I hear it, I'd say, you forgot to release the tension. And they would go like, how do you know? I'm like, I just know. And the second thing is when they'd start cutting, I would tell them, you don't have any tension on that blade. And they'd do what? I said, you don't have any tension on that blade, look. And they'd look down and go, oh yeah. I'm like, I can hear it. I know immediately if where the blade is tightened or not.
Forte wants to know what wood are you using.
This is 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. Quarter inch to me is perfect for a number 1 or a number 3 spiral. Oh, it's like so beautiful cutting it. And like once again, you're going to get a lot of sawdust when you're using spiral, regardless of how thick the material or everything is. I can get it, and maybe I can zoom in a little bit closer. See, oh, I know what it was I was going to tell y'all guys. It was about the webcam. Webcams actually really suck as far as focusing. They're not as good as a normal typical camera on holding the focus. And the camera that I have is the Logitech C190 or whatever, but anyway, it was actually rated as the best webcam for streaming there is. I mean, they did a lot of comparison and it came out that this was one of the best. So this is the camera that I use and I have, but it still lacks in the autofocus kind of mode, so to speak. When you're doing things, it gets a little blurry and stuff. It's just not as good. So
Paul Keene wants to know, what speed are you running your saw?
RPM's wide open.
Yeah.
99% of the time run this sucker wide open. I don't ever slow it down. The only time I slow it down is when I'm cutting stuff 1/8 of an inch. And it depends on what I'm cutting at 1/8 of an inch. If I'm doing something with a spiral blade 1/8 of an inch, I'll run it wide open. But if I'm using a flat blade, I kind of slow it down a little bit because it cuts so fast. You have to slow it down to be accurate. Otherwise, it just cuts too quick. Flying Dutchman blades, even the spirals, and that's what I tell a lot of people they don't understand, is they cut aggressively. That's what they're designed to do, and that's the reason a lot of people don't like them and rather use it, Olsen. They don't like the aggressiveness. What are you laughing at over there?
Because they're talking about peeing each other's pants.
Oh, you guys, come on.
Stephen Charles.
Jeez. Y'all do know that when you do that over on Twitch, it's going to carry over. Now, you're lucky tonight, but if you do it over on Twitch, it's going to carry over and everybody can see it.
They're being sort of cordial.
Oh, okay. So what I mean by it just seems... Now, I noticed just then when I was coming up and I was kind of getting aggressive and going really fast, these pieces started vibrating. That's another thing you're going to have to watch and learn on your own too. When you start cutting portrait patterns and you start getting into these really, really thin areas, and these are not even like super thin, you kind of have to slow down and take it easy, because you get too aggressive and you'll actually get a lot of pull and vibration on your wood and you'll actually snap a piece. So you kind of like have to take it a little bit easier. And then we go back to that thing about staying on the inside of the line and maybe cutting the interior out. For instance, on this, if I'm where's my pointer? Where's Mr. Pointer? Where's Mr. Pointer? Here I am. Here I am. How are you this morning? Very well, I thank you. Ah, here it is. Alright, so when the pieces get here like really, really, really thin, you're sometimes better off, at least in my experience, is to actually cut this all out and leave some of that black and then come back and slowly work on it and gnaw it away. Then you don't get that vibration in the piece of it vibrating, because that blade going up and down and end up with a piece that's broken. That's just from my experience. Because I was getting very aggressive right there when I was coming back down, and I noticed I could see the wood actually moving through the glass, and I was like, better slow down or I'll end up breaking this.
Debbie Shipman said something about taping the back.
Taping the back for what reason, may I ask?
I guess to keep the vibrations of the loose pieces. Maybe that would help. I don't know.
Well, it might, but I mean, most of the only time I ever tape the back, man, I've got the sawdust everywhere, is if you use some packing tape on the back, sometimes on your thicker woods when you're trying to, it helps keep it from burning somewhat. It lubricates the blade. First off, I would never recommend using, I know some people do this, putting the packing tape over the top of the pattern. I tried that one time for a little while, and actually when you're trying to pull the stupid packing tape off, I broke pieces or parts of the piece. So I was like, I gave up on that, you know.
Good point.
Yeah, I gave up on it. It's just, it was too tough and everything. I have on a few occasions when I've cut some Babinga or Purple Heart, and it was fairly thick, used packing tape on the back side to help lubricate the blade and keep it from burning, which would give me a little bit more speed. But I wouldn't. I don't use any tape, you know, in any way, shape, or form. It's just one of those things as you start cutting and you get aggressively cutting. See, I'm go try to cut it out, and you'll see the piece vibrate. It'll actually kind of start vibrating, and that's a signal that you need to slow down because something's gonna break if you ain't careful. All that sawdust. What time is it?
9:40.
9:40. I think we're gonna call it getting ready to call it a night, to be honest with you. I will finish this off. This is actually back out on this. I got all the feathers on this side cut out, so I will finish this off. Mike wanted to know about, yeah, this is just a vacuum cleaner hose, and it's hooked to,
Charles said it's not too loud.
what the vacuum is?
He said it wasn't too loud on Twitch. Maybe you should try it on there.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I will finish this off. It won't take me too terribly long to finish the rest of it out. And then I left enough room around it. I probably end up framing it, put a little frame, small 1-inch frame around it, and making it look real nice and neat. Put me a nice backer behind it, and to have it. Sorry about the thing about Twitch didn't work out. Unfortunately, it was not my fault. So I'm pretty sure that I can, I'm recording this onto my computer, and so I should be able to upload it to Twitch. If not, it'll just stay over here, and I'll have to tell people, hey, you want to see about the scroll saw blades, go over to YouTube. But hopefully I can upload it to Twitch. I would love to be able to do that and have it on there for so. I did find out something different today, though, because I told everybody that most of the videos don't say, most of your videos only stay up for 2 weeks on to Twitch. I did find out if you have a premium paid account, and I'm going to be looking into that real quick, that your videos can stay up for 6 months, I believe it is, before they will actually delete them. But as of now, since I'm not a premium paid member, they're only here for 2 weeks, which I already said I will upload them over to YouTube so they're not lost. And I record every one of them also onto my computer right here tonight, so I've got it. And so, and then plus I think YouTube might be recording this. If not, I'll upload it again. But
Al said Twitch is still down anyway.
wow. That's the first time I've ever heard of it being down, but it's not the first time. When I started reading, I'm like, wow, they've had quite a few problems.
And compliments on the show, great job.
Thank you. One of the reasons they did the 2-week limitation is because they had got flooded by so many people being on Twitch and uploading their videos. They didn't have any room, so they kind of had to cut back and do that 2-week limitation, and unless you pay for it. I found out. I thought that was the only way you could do it. It was 2 weeks, but after I read again today, matter of fact, Steve French and I were together, and I was reading about it, and I went like, holy crap, you can be a paid member and they'll hold it longer. So that's what I intend on doing. I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. I hope you learned something tonight. I do hope I can put this back on Twitch, though, once they get things straightened out. Because how was Cameron's mic, by the way? Could y'all hear him real good? Y'all hear him over there?
Can you hear me over here pretty good tonight?
According to my software, he's almost as loud as I am.
Everyone seems to have said that I mean, they heard my voice and I sound good and
cool.
Everything. So,
well, everybody give Cameron a little.
Thank you guys. I tried. I'm still getting used to this. So
he's never done anything like this.
Better each week.
He's never done anything like moderate the chat or whatever. So I appreciate him doing that, because it takes a load off of me. Gives me time to do this, and he just asked me the questions. So, but a lot of people were saying, well, we couldn't hear him, and I was like, all right, I'll go get him a mic so everybody can hear him. So, but thank you very much for all those who are watching out there live right now, and I do appreciate it very, very, very much. And we're gonna cut out of here. I mean, I've had it. He's worked all day. He's tired, and I've been doing some stuff today, so I'm ready to hit the sack and go to bed too. But I will finish this off. I will not let this die. I will finish him, cutting him out, and even finish and put a frame around it and show y'all that I did finish it and what it looks like when it's done. So, and I'm like I said, these spirals with flat ends cut very well, and once I get the paper off, it will be just as smooth on the front as it is here on the back. They do a very, very good job. Not as totally smooth as like an ultra reverse, spiral, but pretty doggone smooth. So, all right,
There's people asking us to come to a hangout afterwards.
come to a hangout.
To open a hangout or do a live hangout.
Do a live hangout. So, all right, guys. We'll discuss that after we get off here. You know who it all is? Yeah, we don't.
Charles and a few others.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we might do that for a few minutes, but we're not going to stay up late. He's got to go to work tomorrow. He's building in construction, building houses, so he's out there in the hot sun, so he ain't going to stay up too terribly late. But all right, thank you very much, y'all. Hopefully, I will see you again next week over on Twitch. And if Twitch continues to give me these pain in the butt things, we might just change over and do this over here on YouTube. But I'm hoping the Twitch thing works out. I'd really like to explore that avenue over there on Twitch. So thank you very much for watching. Y'all take care. Have a great, fantastic week. And may God bless.
Good night.